Hi guys, my name is Zoe, and this is another episode of Letting Off Steam, and I'm here with Juvaria. So if you could introduce yourself, Juvaria, is that how I pronounce your name?
Yes, yes.
All right,
It's Juvaria.
Juvaria. Okay.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Juvaria, and I am a senior now at Columbia University. I study computer science, and I'm super excited to be discussing with you today about my projects and everything that's related to women in computer science.
Coming from a family of doctors and surrounded by medicine, where did your passion for law and computer science come from? And how do you think you can use the two to change the world, especially the gender gap in computer science?
You're right. So, my father is a doctor, and he always told me that he felt like my passions and talents don't align with medicine. So he never encouraged me to pursue medicine, and I totally agree. I think CS was definitely the right route for me. And the intersection of tech and law in particular is so fascinating. I pursued CS initially because I saw that there was so much work to be done in creating inclusive technology. And at the same time, however, there's so much work to be done in the legal scene to hold people and companies accountable for the software that they create and make sure that it's ethical. And so while artificial intelligence systems are doing great in many areas, unchecked and unregulated AI programs are actively discriminating against marginalized people and threatening civil rights. And the gender gap that you mentioned also comes in here as well, because companies use these very AI systems to hire people, and in the process end up excluding certain minorities because of algorithmic bias. And so I really want to use my expertise and knowledge of computer science along with my legal education to help fight for policies that will focus on fighting algorithmic bias. That's something that I'm super passionate about.
That sounds super cool. I mean, I sure, I think there's an intersectionality between medicine and comp sci, but to hear about that intersectionality between law and CS, at least from my perspective, I've never heard of it before. So I think it's super cool that you're doing all this. And I think it's super important to kind of focus on I guess the ethical aspect of tech and CS. So I think that's really awesome. All right, so second question. Apart from your research, what else have you been involved in related to STEAM?
Yeah. So I started my STEAM journey from Code with Classie, which you already know. Okay, so I've been after I did the Code with Classie bootcamp back in 2015, I realized that I wanted to come back as a teaching assistant. And so the following year I came back as a TA for Code with Classie, and just getting to be in the same position as I was in the year before, as a woman, and just being introduced to web development and computer science, I realized that I loved teaching boot camps because I created my first really real program at a boot camp myself. And so after that, I've been a teaching assistant for the Upper Line School of Code, which is in New York City. And so for the past couple of summers, not this summer, unfortunately, because I didn't have that much time, I've just been helping them run their web development boot camps, focusing on JavaScript and web development. And a lot of the classes that I've taught are just with girls. They're just with girls. And that's something that I'm super passionate about, just helping out with those kind of boot camps. And it's something I want to continue to do in the future.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna switch to something else. So I know that you had an exhibit at the Chicago Cultural Center. So could you tell more about it a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So I got involved with this project through the Data Science Institute at Columbia University. So I applied to be one of their researchers for the summer after my sophomore year. And one of the projects that they had was called Homophily, the Urban History of an Algorithm. And it just sounded so cool. And so I picked that project. And essentially the team that I was working with was investigating the links between design, urbanism, humanities, and data science. So a fascinating intersection. And so what Homophily stands for, what it means is, it means the tendency for friendships to form between people of the same kind. And so this exhibit was intending to build a visualization of how that occurs in like social media. So for example, I specifically helped design the outer walls of the exhibit. So these were like 7 feet big walls. And I used LED lights powered by Arduinos that showed how we get to create a visualization that showed how we get trapped in echo chambers on social media. And I also worked on creating visualizations of the data that the team was working on using like NLP techniques. And that was showcased on the inside of the exhibit. And then it was finally showcased in September 2019 at the Chicago Cultural Center.
Wow. I mean, that must have been an amazing experience, just doing all that. So how do you think like the exhibit kind of impacted the issue that you were exploring, for your, I guess, like research project?
This installation basically looked at the legacy of the model of homophily, which was born in like the larger context of mid-century urban struggles over race and space in the US, specifically in Chicago. And so our exhibit was aiming to provide a visualization to the viewers of the exhibit, how this model has slowly evolved into an algorithm that now drives like the whole digital world, like from recommendations on Netflix to ads that are smartly like shown to you on Instagram and Facebook. And so basically it was trying to show how the model of homophily has evolved. And I think the viewers, I wasn't able to go and see the exhibit myself, unfortunately. But from my team, I heard that like lots of viewers liked it, and it really gained insight into how homophily was just something that it had nothing to do with the digital world back like a couple hundred years back, but now it literally drives everything. It drives tech.
Did you ever face any bad experience in college being a computer science student, especially as a young woman, since there is, a gender gap in the field?
Yeah. So specifically in college, I think the most that I've experienced is just like the regular being surrounded by like obviously a bunch of males in our classes and going to office hours and trying to contribute to a conversation and being talked over. I think that's like one of the very like common things that I've experienced. Other than that, not much. And I think the reason is that I'm not saying that it's not prevalent, like where I go at Columbia, it very much is. I think actually throughout middle school and high school, I kind of experienced some difficulties kind of expressing myself as a woman in tech. And so going into college, I prepared myself for kind of facing that and just kind of like going through it and not really paying attention to it. So in middle school and high school, I went to a very small school, and although I was mostly actually surrounded by females, but there was no like concept of like women in technology, and I kind of felt like I kind of felt like an outlier exploring that field, and I wasn't able to really communicate it with my friends as much. And I felt like every time that I brought that topic up, I was kind of like alienated because I felt like a nerd or whatever. And so then when I started participating in like Code with Clossie, that's when I really got into like this community of girls who were really, really supportive in the online world. And that's where I kind of like gained the confidence that I can be a woman in tech. It is normal. It is something that I can pursue. And so when I came into college, that kind of confidence just helped me move through all of the like really bad experiences that I've had with just males in tech. But it is an issue. And obviously like, I think even like during research projects and internships, being in a team with like males who kind of sometimes like show like a little bit toxicity and try to invalidate your experiences and invalidate your opinions is something that's very common. And I know that I'll continue to face that, unfortunately. But the way that I've dealt with it is just being super confident in what I believe in. And like, if I have something to say, just saying it. I think that has really helped me.
I think that sounds like some awesome advice for anyone who's going to tech or like just anything in STEAM in general. So, what are some issues that are very close to you, and how do you believe those issues could be solved through your knowledge of computer science and STEAM?
Yeah. So one thing I mentioned before, like algorithmic bias, but I already talked about that. So another issue that's close to me would be, and this is coming back to like my kind of like my Code with Clossie experience, like the education of girls in underprivileged countries, such as the one that I'm from, which is Pakistan, is an issue that's very close to me. I've been visiting Pakistan over the past couple of years, and I've been visiting areas where girls are not encouraged to go into the STEM field at all,
Mm-hmm.
or are not encouraged to gain an education in some areas. And so I visited some schools that are doing a really good job at kind of helping them, helping girls like get an education. And I've been working with them, and the work has been stalled due to COVID and stuff, but I've been working with those schools to develop boot camps, like tech-specific boot camps, which will help the girls like be introduced to web development and just like basic technology, like basic hardware as well, like with Arduinos and little bits. And so I've been helping to design those kind of boot camps. And I think where CS comes into play, and where what we can do, like living in countries like America, is create programs through online and connect with girls in these underdeveloped countries that don't have the access to the resources that we have, and help them through some kind of online mentorship program. I think that's an issue that computer science can definitely help us with.
That's great. That sounds like a phenomenal cause. Like, was there like any particular experience that drew you towards like your like the issue of algorithm bias, but also the issue of like trying to hold boot camps in more kind of underprivileged areas?
Yeah. With regards to algorithmic bias, I don't have any personal experience, but I think with helping girls in these underprivileged countries, definitely going there and being from that country, I know that it's really hard to get specific resources that are available here, and I'm so privileged to have such a big community like Code with Classy to connect with mentors and get the advice of like really like powerful women in computer science. And I feel like that's an experience that I want to give back to girls in those countries.
Awesome. All right. So I think we're gonna end this interview with one last question, the big question. Do you have any advice for girls or non-binary individuals who are planning to go into the computer science or other STEAM fields that are more male-dominated and are kind of scared to step into the field because of that?
So number one, I think like I'm a really big believer in like fake it till you make it, but not in the sense of like fake like your knowledge and kind of like lie about that. I mean like in terms of confidence, like no one is ever going to be 100% confident that they want to like in what they know or what they want to pursue, but just like kind of faking that confidence until you really get that confidence, I feel like is the key to navigating these kind of spaces that are more male dominated. Because when you have that confidence, you kind of okay, I want to pursue STEM, and there's no one that's going to tell me that I can't pursue STEM. I'm confident that I will be able to get this concept down, that I will be able to get this job, that I will be able to succeed on this team that's very male dominated. That kind of confidence, I think, really takes you far, and it pushes you to learn those things that will eventually achieve your goal. And I don't think too much confidence is ever bad, to be honest, especially when it comes to navigating these kind of spaces. So I would 100% say be confident. And number two, explore, just like keep exploring. Computer science has so many different things. You can go to so many different things in computer science. There's like machine learning, there's web development, iOS development, there's not even development, product management, you're leading teams, there's so many different things that you can do, and that can become very overwhelming, especially when you go to college and you see everybody like trying to get this internship or trying to do this, and you're like, where are all these like words coming from? Like, what is, like when I came into computer science, I was like, what is machine learning? Like I was just like, I thought it was just like software development. Like, what is all this stuff? How can I navigate all these spaces and when all these men look like they know what they're doing and they already know all these words? And so I'll obviously like exploring everything as much as you can while not freaking out, and just being confident that you'll eventually get there and you'll eventually do what you love to do in this very tricky space. But there is a place for everyone in STEM and STEAM and computer science.
Awesome. I think I totally agree with what you said. All right. I know it's like, I wish the interview was longer and I had so much fun like listening to your answers. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on with Girl Genius Magazine and just like having this awesome interview.